This is the breathe effect and how you can use it in After Effects. Let's start by marking the 3 layers in the composition. Go to Effects and Presets and search for Breathe. And we can just double click the breathe loop effect to apply it to all the 3 layers. And then you can tweak the settings here a bit, and we will only do a bit of change to the intensity slider, and we will change this to 20 for all the 3 layers, and we will get a little bit less movement in the animation. Then go forward a bit in the timeline. We can just zoom in a little bit here. Then press Y to be able to move the anchor point, and then move the whole layer by pressing V. Hold in spacebar to be able to drag at the same time here. And then we do the same to the tree crown and move it down to the top of the vein. You can zoom in, go to the beginning of the timeline. We got a bit of the vein going down below here, which we want to hide. Press the pen tool and then create a mask around this object to hide this. Then press M 2 times to be able to get up the mask options, and we will change it from add to subtract. Move it up a little bit and then create a keyframe for the mask path. Go forward to where the lungs are the smallest and thus furthest away from the vein. Create a new keyframe here, and as the current animation is quite a repeating process, I will fast forward it. But the thought is that you go forward bit by bit in the timeline and try to hide this little edge of the vein by moving around the mask, that it's not sticking out. Then you can press M to hide or collapse the layer, and we will zoom out again by pressing Fit. Duplicate the layer by pressing Ctrl D and change name, enter, and we can name the first one here to Vein Green. Again, press enter and name the second one Vein Red. Mark all the layers, go to Effects and Presets again, and now search for Fill. And you can also just double click the Fill effect to apply it to all the layers. Let's start by the tree layer. Go down here to color, and we will choose green color here, somewhat dark green, but you can choose this to whatever you like. Let's go to Vein Green, and we will use the eyedropper here to change the color to the same as the treetop. And for the lungs, we will choose a red color, a bit dark red, and we will do the same with the Vein Red layer and just use the eyedropper, match the color to the lungs. Then just have a quick look here by hiding one of the layers so you get the same color on both of them. Go forward a bit, and as you can see now, the animation is moving at the same time, and we actually want the tree and the lungs to move in opposite directions. So when the lungs expand, we want the tree crown to contract or shrink, and vice versa. So let's drag in the whole layer here for the tree, and we want the tree to be the smallest possible when the lungs are the widest or most expanded. Finally, just drag out the layer here to the very end of the timeline. Mark the vein green and hide this layer, and we will start by animating the vein red. We can just zoom in a little bit here, use the pen tool again, and we will create a second mask. We will just do a bit of a triangle shape here. Go into the vein red, just hit double M 2 times, change from add to subtract, and we will choose inverted this time. Go forward a bit in the timeline, just about somewhere here, and we will create keyframes for mask path, feather, and expansion. Drag this up a little bit, the mask feather and the mask expansion. Something like this. Go to the beginning of the timeline, and we will tweak these settings a little bit as well. Drag the whole mask down to the very beginning. And we got something like this. And mark the keyframes. Press Ctrl C to copy them, and then Ctrl V to paste them. And just repeat this process to cover the whole timeline, so we get a looping effect. Then you can press M to hide or collapse the layers, and we will do the same thing to the vein green. And now we start in the very top and create a triangle pointing down to the lungs. Press double M again to be able to see the masks, and we will change from add to subtract here as well, and invert the mask. We do some tweakings to mask feather and mask expansion. We will also create keyframes here for mask path, feather and expansion. Move forward a bit in the timeline to where the lungs is the most contracted or smallest. Drag the mask all the way up in the top. And we will tweak the mask feather and expansion a little bit. Mark the keyframes and press Ctrl C to copy them and Ctrl V again to paste them. And repeat the process all the way out to cover the whole timeline. Mark all the keyframes again and press F9 to ease them. Press M to collapse the layers, and we will do this process as well to the vein red, as we forgot this. So mark all these keyframes and press F9 to ease these ones as well. Then zoom out a bit and have a quick look so the animation looks alright. And for the final effect, to make them spark a little bit more, we will add glow to them. And go up to Effects and Presets and search for glow. Again, you can just double click the effect and you will apply it to the layer. And for this animation, I will choose the alpha channel, and let's change these settings a little bit. I will use about 16.5 for the glow threshold, 28 radius and 0.3 for the intensity. Then create 3 keyframes for one of each of them. Mark the layer and press U to be able to see the keyframes. So move the time cursor to where the tree crown is the biggest. Mark and drag the keyframes to this point. And go back to the beginning again, and we will change these settings a little bit and drag them down. And again, mark them, press Ctrl C to copy them and Ctrl V to paste them, and repeat this process for the whole timeline. Then press U again to collapse the layers and hide them. And now we will go to the next layer, to the lungs, and apply the glow effect. Double click, choose alpha channel, and here I will fast forward a lot since I'm doing a lot of tweaking to get this just the way I want. And with these settings you can really play around a lot to get it just the way you like it. And I will give you all the numbers I'm using in the very end here. But the base is that I'm using 3 layers of glow effect and just using Ctrl D to copy them. So change the settings for the first layer, press Ctrl D to copy it, get a new layer, and then change these settings here as well. And finally get a third layer by pressing Ctrl D and do these tweakings as you like to get it just right, or at least what I think can look nice in this type of animation. But that is completely individual, I think. Let me know in the comments if you like the settings here or if you prefer some other type of glow. What is your favorite settings? I will be using 100% threshold, 14 radius and 1.9 intensity on the first layer. Second layer, 32.5 threshold, 45 radius and 0.5 intensity. On the last layer, 54.5% threshold, 31 radius and 0.5 intensity. Alright, so let's move forward a bit again in the timeline. Mark the layer of the lungs if you haven't already, and we will create 3 keyframes for each of the layer. 9 in total. Then press U to be able to see all the keyframes. And you can just drag over them to mark them and drag the keyframes to the very left or the beginning in the timeline. Then just drag down the settings here a little bit until you almost can't see the glow anymore. Thus we are creating a bit of animation here. As the lungs are expanding to the most, they will also start glowing as they receive the air from the tree crown. And once again, we will repeat the process here with the keyframes. You can just mark them and drag all over them. Press Ctrl C to copy them and then Ctrl V to paste them again. And repeat the process as usually for the whole time frame. And then mark all the keyframes here, and you can do it by pressing Ctrl Alt A to mark all visible keyframes. Press F9 to ease them. And that's it. There you have it, your final animation. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you want to learn some more, please subscribe. And also make sure to check out the next video.